Hello, and welcome back to Modern Classics. I'm your host, Pete Tubbs. Halloween has finally rolled back around, and for those of us who are obsessed with spooky season, nothing could make us happier. One of the best perks of the month of October is forcing your friends to watch horror movies with you and have absolutely no regret about it. There are seemingly hundreds of streaming services out there, and odds are you have access to more than a few of them. So this week, I'm going to give out some recommendations of 5 scary movies that you can watch from the comfort of your own home. Starring Anton Yelchin in one of his final roles after his untimely death, Green Room follows an upstart punk rock band that lands a gig at a white supremacist club. When the band witnesses something unspeakable, they are trapped in, you guessed it, the green room of the club. What starts off as a conventional thriller descends into madness near the halfway point. I consider myself to have a strong stomach, but in one sequence involving Yelchin's character had me squeamish enough to consider turning it off. One of the most surprising elements of the film is Patrick Stewart's portrayal of the white supremacist group. He's cool, calm, and collective, and he goes about his horrific acts much in the same way as someone like Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees would. Green Room is a great film to show your friends if you want them to shout in disbelief and feel tension that is rarely felt in films these days. It's available on Hulu right now. I once had the opportunity to see the F.W. Murnau silent film Nosferatu performed by a full orchestra, and it was one of the most mesmerizing times I've ever had at the movies. I've since watched the film countless times and it retains its power. Starring the incomparable Max Schreck as Nosferatu the vampire, the film is a sort of precursor to the Dracula films by being a knockoff of the original novel. Nosferatu slinks his way around dark hallways and through lacy bedrooms until he finds his prey. My first impression of the villain and protagonist of the film was by seeing him and being absolutely horrified by his sight in an episode of SpongeBob SquarePants. Even though Nosferatu was released in 1922, it retains the power to crawl under the skin. The performances, especially by Schreck, are uncommonly felt through the thick veil of silence. Murnau's Nosferatu will forever stand as one of the first and one of the best horror films of all time. It's on Amazon Prime right now. Netflix is no stranger to creating their own horror films. They have dozens of them, ranging from unwatchable to actually pretty great. Lucky for us, 1922 is one of their best. Based on the Stephen King novella, this dark horror drama follows a farmer and his young son after the former murders his wife. It is an uneasy film with an unflinchingly uncomfortable tone. Thomas Jane has long been one of the most underrated performers of his time, and he's jaw-dropping here. His swaggering, anxious voice and his lumbering physicality help make the character of Will James one of his both empathetic and villainous. What makes 1922 so special is the emotional impact the movie has. The relationship between father, son, and mother is the soul of this movie, and you might be more affected by it than you would think. This Netflix original has been available since 2017. Hereditary is one of the most horrific films to be released since the original Exorcist. It follows a family that is dealing with the death of the main character's mother. This is a film that has so many desperately hopeless twists and turns that by the end you have no idea what happened, but you can't wait to experience it and unfold its startling contents again. I rarely say this, but do not watch this film alone. It shook me more than I've been shaken by a motion picture in a very long time. Toni Collette is absolutely the star of Hereditary, as she gives one of the all-time greatest horror performances. The Academy Awards should be ashamed of themselves for not recognizing her. I know I've said very little of the plot of Hereditary, but it's best that you dive straight in and see if you can manage to breathe the deeper it gets. It's now streaming on Amazon Prime. One of my absolute favorite movies of all time, Evil Dead, is a horror blast like no other, except for maybe Evil Dead 2. Sam Raimi's film stars the ever-entertaining Bruce Campbell as Ashley Williams as he clumsily tries to save his friends from a demon attack at a remote cabin. Made for a budget of approximately $350,000, this is one of the most profitable films of all time based on a budget-to-gross ratio, as it should be. Stephen King himself in 1981 called it the most ferociously original film of the year. Evil Dead features buckets of blood, severed limbs, relentless scares, and even some laughs sprinkled in it. It is a roller coaster ride of a movie, and it deserves to be watched with the largest crowd you can find. You'd be hard-pressed to locate a more accessibly fun horror flick anywhere this side of Shaun of the Dead. Evil Dead is now available to stream on Hulu and Showtime. So there you have it, film fans. Which frights will you stream this Halloween season? For more on movies and movie news, come back next week. This has been Pistol Pete Tubbs with Modern Classics.